Hello, everyone, and welcome back to this episode of Just Another Year Chicago. My name is Nick Brody, and I'm joined alongside a very special guest tonight, Zack Pearson from BearReport.com, Bears writer. You've probably seen him on Twitter. Love interacting with him. He's a great guy. Zack, thank you for coming on to the show.
Anytime, man. Thank you for having me on.
Absolutely. So Zack Pearson, as you guys know, is a writer, and he's at House Hall. We were talking about it a little bit before. He gets to know the guys on a level we don't get to. So Zack, I'm going to ask you two questions. So the first one I'm going to ask you is, who is the best person to interview out of your entire 13-year career with the Bears? Who is the best person that you've ever interviewed?
Oh, man. Let's see. There's been a lot of them. I would say probably my best one-on-one or my favorites. One-on-one. I'd have to say I really liked Jordan Howard. I thought he was a really good interview. I got to do him a couple times, interview him one-on-one. I would say he's probably one of my favorites. Matt Forte was great. That was like one of my very first interviews with him. Yeah, I'd say those two are probably my two favorites so far that I've encountered.
All right. Well, so here's your question. So there might be a follow-up. It depends on how you answer it.
Okay.
You're in a room, and you are forced to interview Aaron Rodgers, Kirk Cousins, Brett Favre, or any, let's see, I had to Blake Bortles. Who would you interview? And it's going to be, they know that you work for the Bears, and all of them, it was during their times with either the Packers or the Vikings.
Yeah, I would probably, I think Blake Bortles would be the coolest of them to interview. Like, I think he'd be the one that, would be kind of more laid back and kind of easier to talk to. I think a lot of guys kind of relate to him. He's more, easygoing. It would be hard turning down Aaron Rodgers just because I think his mind is like just so sometimes out there, and what he thinks is like out there, and and that's not necessarily a bad thing. I think he's got a lot in his mind he likes to share. So it'd be kind of hard passing up Aaron Rodgers. I'd probably give it to Rodgers in a slight favorite, but I would say Bortles probably more I can relate to, more easygoing.
Okay. So following up after that, if you had to sit in a room, and have you ever interviewed Chris Conte? That's another question for you.
No, I have not.
If you had to sit in the room after Cody Parkey missed the field goal in 2018, or Chris Conte when he gave up the touchdown to the Packers, I think it was 2011 or 2013, and you're an upset fan, you are a fan in that moment, who would you rather be in a room with, and you would have to keep your cool?
It'd probably be Chris Conte because I was in that locker room after the Cody Parkey miss, not as a fan, obviously, as a reporter. I'm a Bears fan, but I still have a job to do when I'm there. And I will say it was one of the most disappointing, gut-wrenching, heartbreaking, toughest thing to see after that play, the double doink, seeing the players so dejected and just like I said, heartbroken. It was really tough for me to see, hard because I knew, covering that 2018 team, how much fun they had, seeing them after games they won in that locker room, relating to them, getting to know some of them on a personal level. It was hard to see that. I think I would rather be in the Chris Conte one just because I think that one had a lot more characters and probably it'd be easier to an easier pill to swallow, I want to say. 2018 was just gut-wrenching, though. I can tell you from experience.
Oh, man. So I don't think anyone's gotten to hear it from a reporter themselves lately. That this is kind of a refresher for everyone that's going to be watching this. But that's horrible. And I mean, like that for me, I first started really getting into the Bears like I am now. And the Chris Conte game was what broke my heart, and I heard it on the radio too, because I was driving back from, it was a wintry day, cold wintry day. I'm riding back with my dad in the car, and all of a sudden you hear, and Conte misses coverage, and everyone that was a gun feeling. I still have nightmares about 2018. I'll just put that out there.
I mean, 2018 was really, that one was tough. Just like getting to know those players and the personalities, like the fun personalities, like Tariq Cohen and Akeem Hicks and all those guys, like that was a fun team to cover. and a fun team to kind of be around. So yeah, I mean, it was gut wrenching, and there's obviously a 20-minute cool down after the game, so like I wasn't in that locker room for like straight fresh off the field emotions, but there was still emotions 25, 30 minutes later after that game. And, while there was thought, hey, this team is really good, they're going to be back next year. They obviously didn't get back. It was still hard to see all that hard work kind of go down the drain, and in the way it did, it was tough.
Well, somewhat. So, I mean, thanks for sharing that, because I know like people in the comments might say they want to be in a room with. I think everyone will mostly agree with you, though. There's no denial of that. But bringing it up to speed, today, so we're recording October 19th, 2022, is that Robert Quinn trade rumors have begun. The Bears, according to Brian Dodaro from CBS Sports, Robert Quinn is being shopped around at the moment before the trade deadline. And as a lot of people know, that Robert Quinn broke the Chicago Bears single-season franchise record for sacks in a single season at 18.5. Quinn only has 1 sack so far through 6 games. And the new defense it's a new defense. It doesn't blitz nearly as much as Sean decided last year. So a lot of people, that's the one argument you could make for Robert Quinn. But Quinn is in the 3rd year of his 5-year, $70 million contract that Ryan Pace literally handed to him. And if the Bears are to trade him, here's the breakdown of the contract from a dead cap perspective, is that in 2022, the Bears would have $4.3 million in dead cap. In 2023, they would have $8.5 million in dead cap, but they would save $12.8 million in cap right now in 2022. So obviously that goes into that $120 million projected that the Bears could have. So the Bears are still getting more money, but they're still going to owe, $8.5 million next year of Robert Quinn's contract, wherever he may end up if he does get traded. So Zach, the Bears still save a decent chunk of cash, and this was a Ryan Pace move. So clearly, how do you feel about this trade? Kind of where do you see it? Do you think it's going to happen? Just what are your overall thoughts when you first heard it this morning?
Yeah, it didn't shock me because you kind of heard in the offseason as well that potentially he was unhappy. He wanted to be traded. He seems pretty fine, pretty happy in Chicago. I just don't think it's a good fit to have a veteran pass rusher who's struggling on a team that's clearly rebuilding. The Bears are never going to come out and say that they're rebuilding at all. Like that was never, going to happen. They are rebuilding. I mean, they're in a year where pretty much they probably should be really bad and get a high pick. And the way that Robert Quinn struggled this year, maybe he's not the best fit for this defense. I'm not a guy that watches the tape on every single game multiple times. I do watch a lot of tape, and I have to watch a lot of tape. I study it. And to me, he seems like a guy where it's not always getting double-teamed and chipped a lot like we saw last year, but maybe him taking a little bit wider angles, him not firing off the ball as quick as he has in the past. So I think if you're the Bears and you're sitting here, the trade deadline's coming up, you're 2-4, probably going to be 2-6, 4-5, maybe at best coming out of this next 2-game stretch. I would entertain offers for Robert Quinn. I think if you can get a, 5th round pick, 4th round pick somehow for him, I would probably do it. I just don't think it's a fit by the time the Bears are good in a couple of years. He's not going to be playing at this high of a level. He probably won't, be as good. So I think it makes sense for the Bears to move on. I thought it made sense at the offseason. I love Robert Quinn, total professional, nice guy. What he did last year was incredible. I thought they should have moved on from him in the offseason. I think they should probably do it here ahead of the deadline as well.
Yeah, I totally agree. I was 100% on the train as well, getting rid of Robert Quinn during the offseason. Being rebuilding, Bears could have gotten more draft picks from this year's draft out of it. Also cleared some cap. But the breakdown was actually that the Bears only would have saved $7 million if they either traded him or released him before the June 1st mark. That every offseason has. June 1st is like the day where things happen. Eddie Goldman got moved around that time period, Danny Trevathan. But the Bears are going to gain an extra $5 million out of it now if they either release him or trade him, if they were to do that, which I don't see the Bears releasing him. I think that he still does have value, especially that veteran leadership and what he did last year. Zack, please jump in and agree or disagree with me. I think a great team for him to go to. I mean, the Rams were kind of rumored, hey, the Rams can just take everybody because apparently the NFL doesn't cap the Rams. But, Sean Desai is up in Seattle, and that was his defensive coordinator, during his 18.5 sack season. And Seattle they're not good, but they're not bad. They're actually shocking a lot of people with, especially Geno Smith's kind of play is pretty crazy. Losing Rashad Penny obviously hurt them a lot, but the Seahawks aren't doing bad. Robert Quinn could help bolster that defense a little bit more. Maybe they make a little bit more noise in their division. But if I'm sending him anywhere, I would send him to Seattle because I feel like it would be a win for him because that's his old defensive coordinator. He can instantly make an impact. And two, Seattle still probably is not going to be a 12-4 team by any means, or what was that, 12-5 or whatever you want to call it. They're not going to be that good of a team. They might get an earlier draft pick or a mid-draft pick, but you never know. That's where I would send him to because it wins for and Ryan Poles seems like a pretty classy guy to help out a veteran that was put in a bad position, and like he's done with other guys. But I would love to hear your thoughts of where you could see him going. You said a 5th round pick, but where do you think realistically you could go, what you could get?
Yeah, I mean, if you're trying to deal Robert Quinn, you have to kind of look at the factors of it. Obviously, the money is what we've already talked about, the compensation you're going to get back, and then maybe the fit for the player, if he's a veteran and, if he's coming down the last years of his contract. Does he want to go to a contender winner? Obviously, I think that's the case for him. I would say, Seattle is a sneaky team. I don't know if they'll make the playoffs. They might hang in there until the end in that wild card. Someone like Kansas City might make sense. The Rams and the NFC has already been brought up. I think they make sense. They need some more kind of firepower on their defense because it kind of feels like if the Rams are going to make a run, it's going to have to be, with that defense because the offense just looks awful. Outside of that, though, the NFC is so weak. Sending them to a contender could be a lot of different teams. Like, I don't think Philadelphia necessarily makes sense. They might for a veteran if they're really going for a Super Bowl run. You're not going to send them to Green Bay. You're not going to send them to Minnesota. The Giants probably don't need much help on that defensive line. They look pretty good. Dallas is another team I don't think needs a lot of help. And then after that, it's still a bunch of just teams. So maybe the AFC makes a little more sense. Buffalo solved their issue with Von Miller. You saw him overtake a game. Maybe Miami, back to Miami. Kansas City would make a lot of sense there. Trying to think, Could
you see him going to Vegas? Maybe Vegas?
Yeah, he could go to Vegas. I mean, they do have, Max Crosby and Chandler Jones out there, but Chandler Jones has been kind of disappointing for them. I think Vegas is an interesting team. They've lost they're 1-4. They've lost all 4 games by 13 total points. They've been in games against the Chargers. They've been in games against the Chiefs. They've hung around a lot of those games. And they have a pretty favorable schedule coming up. Like starting this week with the Texans, that's a game they should win. They have a pretty favorable schedule. So they're a team that, they could be looking to make a postseason run. Maybe boosting up that pass rush out there by acquiring Robert Quinn could help them. So there's going to be suitors for him. I think you have to take into consideration he probably wants to play for a contender. So you're going to have to probably find those, when you say contender, I think there's 3 really good teams in the NFL, and I think there's a bunch of teams. You might have to find, probably those 2 out of 3 total contenders, and then maybe 5 or 6 after that. So we'll see. Maybe Cincinnati might be a good fit for him.
It's such a weird year in the NFL, I feel like. Guys are getting injured left and right. There are a lot of 500 teams. Like, the Bears are technically still in it. Like, they're not out of it. Yeah, and also the Bears, their last 3 games, 2 of them being against 5-1 teams currently, they've lost by a score, and they've put up a fight. The Giants game, I'm very salty about. For the people that watch at home, I had a 5-leg parlay that would have won me $10,000 if Treston Ebner would have gotten half a yard more. I would have won $10,000. Very salty about the Giants game. That's all I'll put that out. I don't even care about the score. I was just so salty for that reason. The Vikings game, that was our Murphy's viewing party. That was a fun game, especially because the Bears came back. And then the Commanders game, there was, 3 chances within 5 yards of score. That was disappointing. But the Bears, like Justin Fields said, are so almost there that they're missing a few pieces. I know we're on Robert Quinn, but like I see it like that's how every team is. Like Green Bay's 3-3. The Jets are good. The Jets, Jets. Like I love saying that. Like I just think the Jets are fun to watch. But the Dolphins they're in a weird position because their starting quarterback nearly probably couldn't walk for 2 weeks because of how bad he was concussed. It's just it's a weird thing, man. And I agree, it's a weird. There's so many teams you could send him to that they could go one way after their bye week, or they can go a completely good direction. And you never know. I hope the Bears get a decent pick for Robert Quinn, and I think they could have gotten a third for him before this season. I think they can get, like you said, max a 5th now if they're lucky.
That's the problem too. Is the Bears kept him. I can kind of see why. Realistically, probably should have traded him because now that value's tanking. I mean, I'm not saying Robert Quinn can't have a monster second half for another team or come out and play really well for another team. But like his peak was this offseason. That was peak trade value for him was this offseason. And, they waited, and now, if you get a 5th rounder, I think that's a win. Realistically, you probably get a 6th rounder for him. I mean, a lot of people are going to say
it's more the cap. It's more the cap.
It's a cap too. So you kind of have to look at it from all different scenarios there.
Well, speaking of that, so Robert Quinn obviously might not be a Bear tomorrow. We don't know. We're recording this at 7:30 on Wednesday night, so you never know. We could wake up in the morning, Robert Quinn might not be a Bear anymore. But there's still time before the deadline, so you never know. But Zach, let's go into one more topic of today. Questions took a little longer than expected. That's my fault, but good answers. Great to hear an insight from a reporter that was there for all these situations. Matt Eberflus today, it was yesterday, my apologies, on Tuesday came out and said, we're going to give it to the hot hand. And what he meant by that was that what's really powering the offense is the running back room of David Montgomery and Khalil Herbert. Treston Ebner, I think, is doing a pretty decent job. But Khalil Herbert is averaging 6.9, nice yards per carry. And then Montgomery is averaging 4 yards a carry. So, I like that you were laughing at nice, by the way. I'm happy you got the reference right there. But so, both running backs are doing really well, particularly they're literally carrying the offense. I mean, Justin Fields is doing a great job. He's doing the best Michael Vick impression and his Lamar Jackson impression on the field. Zach, how do you feel about Eberflus making comments like this, though? Kind of sitting in the room, Nagy was never the kind of guy, or, Tressman or Lovey were never the kind of guys that would call out, maybe Lovey a little bit, but they never called out players and they never said what was on the mind. Like Nagy thought he was Pandora's box, like every secret and no one would ever figure him out. And then he'd run 5 draw plays in a row. But, could guys take that kind of comment wrong, especially David Montgomery in a contract year? Kind of how are you feeling about it? I think it's great that both of them are doing well. And I like that he's bringing this kind of Iron Mike Ditka, which shout out happy birthday to him yesterday, mentality to the podium. But it's a different day and age. Guys take things differently, especially in the NFL. How do you feel about Eberflus making comments like this?
Yeah, I mean, it's a little refreshing at the same time, though. Like, I don't know how fully we can kind of buy into that. A lot of it is coach speak as well. They're not going to kind of reveal a lot of stuff. They've pretty much proved that. They're going to keep a lot of stuff closer to them and handle their business inside. But, I mean, I will say, Eberflus with the media, it's a little different than Nagy. Like you mentioned, Nagy did have his Pandora's box. He thought he was the smartest guy in the room. I don't get that vibe from Eberflus, but at the same time, Eberflus is not really going to tell us a lot. They're going to be as secretive as they want to be as well, which is a little frustrating because it's hard for us to do our job. So, yeah, I mean, the comment you're referring to, obviously, the going with the hot hand, and there's the, talk of who they're going to go, who's going to start, blah, blah, blah. Is Montgomery going to be benched? I think they need to use them both as a two-headed monster in the backfield, and I think they really did not do well with that on Thursday. And I'll bring up one example. Khalil Herbert had a 62, 63-yard run. At the end of it, he's gassed. He ran out of gas. We all can see
Yeah.
it. He comes in, I think, 2 of the next 3 plays. Correct me if I'm wrong. 2 of the next 3 plays, 2 of the next 4 plays were run plays. He got stuffed at the goal line at the 1 yard
Every
line.
time. It was 4 plays. You're correct.
He was gassed. David Montgomery's on the sideline. If you're doing a true running back split, use a 2-headed monster. Did Khalil Herbert probably deserve a touchdown for that long run? Yeah. Does Khalil Herbert care if he gets a touchdown or if David Montgomery gets a touchdown? No. They care about that they get the touchdown. I would have gone to Montgomery there. After that, Herbert had 5-6 total more carries in the game.
Yeah.
Something like that. Like, you got to
for
figure
like
out
10 more yards, too.
For 10 more yards. Yeah, you got like, this has happened multiple times. This coaching staff, for whatever reason, loves this rotation stuff. Saw it at right guard before Cody Whitehair got hurt. Now you're seeing it running back. If it's going to be a true rotation, make it a true rotation. Don't stick with one guy for an entire series, especially if he's gassed like that. Interchange them. Look at the NFL. The NFL, the Giants have Barkley, great running game. Teams that have really good running games usually have 2 players, or teams that are middle of the pack usually have 2 players they use in their backfield a lot. Green Bay does it. You saw Minnesota, they use Madison a lot more than I thought they would. Detroit kind of mixes it with Jamal Williams and DeAndre Swift. Teams like that and other teams around the league do it too. So I don't know, man. I think it needs to be a true running back split. Make sure you're utilizing both skill sets.
Because Montgomery is a much better pass blocking back. We've seen that. Like, Herbert just doesn't have that touch yet. I'm not saying Montgomery had it out of the gate. Montgomery had to get good at it. He had to be not afraid to hit guys like Aaron Donald coming at him at 20 miles an hour,
Exactly.
And I know it's a contract year for Montgomery too, but when I was sitting on my couch, I was watching it with my dad, and I saw Herbert out there the next play when clearly he ran out of gas. Otherwise, he would have scored if he didn't run out of gas. Yeah. And we're both looking at each other and we're like, why is it? He's physically like this, breathing. We're like, you have 2 other running backs throughout there, coach. What are you doing? So I'm with you on that. And it's just growing pains. That's an Eberflus not being used to the offensive side of things, I think, because he's fantastic on the defense. I think this defense is going to be scary for a couple years, for the next couple years for sure. I mean, they could hit a whole new level that we're not used to, probably like 2018 vibes a little bit within the next year. This kind of feels like 2017 again, where the defense is there, but the offense isn't, but it's almost there. So next year, obviously can be a big game changer. But Zach, one more question. I know we're coming up on time here that I want to bring out for you. Is speaking to Eberflus yourself, have you spoken to him one-on-one? What is he like? I know you kind of threw a shot at Nagy. I don't know how much you want to throw shots at Nagy. We would love to hear it as always. But you're saying that it sounds like he's a pretty humble guy, but from a football smarts perspective, how much better do you feel in the room with Eberflus, or do you just not have a feel for it yet?
It's not that Matt Nagy was. I don't mean to take a shot at him or anything like that.
I don't think you were. I don't think you were. It was a good comment though.
He's a nice guy. I mean, he just was in over his head, I think, a little bit. And that not always his fault, but Eberflus. When he first got here, him and Poles, they did like a little. Each reporter got to talk to him, and it was, a 1-on-4. So it was like me and 3 other reporters getting to talk to Poles. Me and 3 other reporters getting to talk to Eberflus. Everyone took turns and got their chance, and that was really refreshing and nice. I like Eberflus. I think he's straight to the point. I also think, like I mentioned, they're still very secretive about things, and they still have this thing in household that has to be locked up like Fort Knox. Otherwise, someone's going to find their game plan and someone's going to get the secret sauce that has won the Bears every Super Bowl for the past 15 years. Spoiler, they haven't. So that's a little frustrating, especially when you're trying to ask them legit not even personnel questions, legit questions to make us do our job and legit questions to do, that not game playing stuff, but stuff that impacts the game. And that's my only gripe with it. Other than that, though, it's been really, really good. And I think he is a professional speaker. I think he understands the importance of the job, the history of the job. So, yeah, I mean, I don't really have much complaints, honestly.
Good. I think that's a breath of fresh air because some of the questions that we would hear during live press conferences, maybe you asked them, and some of the comments that we'd get in the last 4 years before Eberflus was just like, "What's like that? Had nothing to do with what we're talking about."
Yeah.
Last question for you here, and this is for Tony because I know Tony's going to watch, and I'm not sure how often you've watched or you know the joke, but did you like Andy Dalton, or did you wish that Andy Dalton would have played full last season and Fields not play at all?
I think the Bears botched that situation from the start. I don't think. Okay, I'll take it a step further. Bears management botched that situation after 2020. When you go into that Saints game, they lose how they did. One offensive touchdown that came in the final second of the game. It was time to end the Matt Nagy, Ryan Pace era. It was time 100%. Everyone knew it. Everyone on the team knew it. Fans should have known it. They didn't do that. They got him Justin Fields. I was happy they drafted Justin Fields. Did they get Justin Fields if Ryan Pace and Matt Nagy are there? No. I don't know. Probably not, but there's probably a slim chance. When you draft a quarterback like that, I understand where Matt Nagy and Ryan Pace are coming from. They had to save their jobs. They had to go with the quarterback that they thought would win and save them their jobs. Now, you don't tell him like he's pretty much got no shot at winning the job. I was at that training camp all summer long. He had 5 to 6 legit first-team reps with that first-team offense in team drills. That's inexcusable. I don't even care. Like, you already said Andy Dalton's a starter. Why is not Justin Fields not getting, let's say, 20% of the reps, 15% of the reps? He got 5 total reps, and we saw how it all played out. So I understood what Matt Nagy was doing, his plan, quote-unquote plan. I don't think Justin Fields would have played until pretty much December if Andy Dalton never got hurt, unless things went really downhill. That whole quarterback room was really, really interesting last year. I mean, you had Nick Foles pretty much come out and blast everyone in the organization during that press conference. That was probably one of the crazier press conferences I've ever sat through in my life. Then he comes out and pretty much, running his own plays and practice and kind of stuff like this and kind of doing his own thing in the game against Seattle. And he actually looked pretty good in that game. But, yeah, their plan from the start and what they wanted to do, like, was not good. Like, it was just kind of like, what are you doing here? And I understand, like, they pay Andy Dalton the money. I'm not mad that they signed Andy Dalton because there's no guarantee you get Justin Fields in March.
That's what I said too. 100%.
No guarantee at all. So I get why they signed Andy Dalton. I just wish it was more of a competition. And I really think they hindered Justin Fields' development last year. And I think it's kind of coming back to bite the franchise in the ass right now.
He looks better. Every game he's looked better in some way. Like, yeah, I know a lot of people like his the whole breathing meme thing where like, but it works, man. Yeah. Like, he looks so much calmer out there. So I had to ask because Tony, my co-host, he does not, hate's a strong word, but he really did not like Andy Dalton. And I'm with you. I was like, he was the best quarterback in free agency that year. There was no guaranteed of Justin Fields. Ride with the guy that has 38,000 passing yards all the time. It was Andy Dalton, like a Hall of Famer. Maybe when he's like 85, he'll be a Hall of Famer. Maybe. Yeah. Like, he'll be one of the random ones. But you know what I'm saying? Like, it was what we had to work with.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I don't, like, signing Andy Dalton, I don't think was the problem. I think the coaching and the front office's love affair with Andy Dalton was the problem. Like, from the start, once they drafted Justin Fields, Andy's starter, Andy's our guy. They had the QB1 tweet, all this goofy stuff. Like, their love affair for Andy Dalton was just like, what are we doing here? Like, you have a kid in training camp. I was there every day. Like I said, Justin Fields was a better quarterback in training camp last year. Justin Fields had 5 to 6 reps with the first team offense. We saw how bad it got for him. So, I'm fairly confident the Bears would have stuck with Andy Dalton if he didn't get hurt, unless he was just god awful. And I don't think that would have happened. I think he was like a good game manager for that offense. But, this whole thing, they should have ended the Ryan Pace, Matt Nagy era after 2020. It just should happen.
And Ryan Pace keeps bringing guys in that the Bears just been throwing out the door. Like, hey, he just picks them all up. So it's so fun. For some, Pace did fine with Yeah, go have your guy back. We don't thanks for drafting him, but you can have him back, no problem. But Zach, great episode. Always, I know this is the first time we've done this together. I'm sure we'll do it again soon.
Yeah,
but sure. Always insightful. Everyone loves following your tweets. So thank you so much for hopping on this episode. We really appreciate it.
Anytime you want me on, just let me know. I'm more than happy to do it. Thanks again for everything. And all of you guys keep up the good work. And, hopefully Bears will start to get better and there'll be a little more positive vibes around the franchise.
We need something new to talk about that isn't about the Bears not scoring touchdowns because
right.
It just hurts, man. What are you going to do? But with that, guys, thank you very much for joining this episode of Just Another Year Chicago with Zack Pearson. My name is Nick Rohde, and we'll see you guys next time.
Hello, everyone. Welcome into another edition of Just Another Year Chicago. My name is Tony Stapita. I am joined once again by my co-host, Nick Barr. How you doing today, Nick?
Oh, I'm doing well, my friend. I am seeing red, the leaves are falling, and the Bulls are playing. Let's go.
Absolutely. Nick makes a great point. The Bulls are playing. The Bulls are back. So why don't we just hop right into it with we're going to do a little season preview. Obviously talk a little Io, the new starting point guard for the time being of the Chicago Bulls. We're going to kind of hit on just kind of an overall, 10,000 foot view of the season. And then, give you our predictions, tell you exactly what's going to happen this season. And then we'll also hit on the upcoming game against the Miami Heat on Wednesday night in Miami, the season opener. So Nick, why don't you start us off? Hit us with a little Io talk.
Yeah, man. I mean, I think when it comes to, looking forward to this season, clearly a lot of other teams in our conference got better. I think we all know that. I think it's going to be a grinded out season, and, who better to do that with Io at the helm? I think, he's announced the starter. He's been improving every minute. It feels like that he's been playing on the court. So huge year for the kid there. And obviously we're a little lacking at that position. We don't know when Lonzo Ball is coming back. We have no idea. So don't ask. And Dragic, he's a vet. We actually stole him from the Heat. Thank you very much. But we'll probably have to watch his minutes. So a lot is going to fall on Io. Kobe White is another guy who we'll be kind of looking at because they didn't agree on an extension. That was some news. So it leaves a lot of room for Io to shine. I'm looking forward to it. I think he can do it. I think he can step up to the plate. But these other pieces, make the stakes a little higher, if you will. But like I said, I think everyone else got better in the conference. I don't know if we improved that much. Dalen Terry, our rookie's looking good. But in terms of, main core pieces, you're seeing the same dudes, which I think is a good thing. But listen, I mean, even the Magic are gonna give us fits this year. There's a lot of good young talent. There's a lot of teams improving their rosters as well. So that brings me, Tony, to my prediction for the season. Drum roll, please. I think we get the 8 seed, Tony, and I think we sit at around 42 wins. And I did come up with that myself before Tony told me that was what the Vegas line was set at. I didn't know that. I'm just a pro. Okay. I think right around there is what we're looking at. Obviously, I hope I'm wrong. I hope it goes a little bit better than that. But I don't think it's a matter of did we get better or are we going to get better. I think we'll probably kind of stay the same. It's just that those pieces around us have gotten a lot better. So that's where I stand. Tony, hit me with your prediction, sir.
Yeah, that's a great point. And here, let's switch it over here. Yeah, this is my first time doing the banners, ladies and gentlemen. It's usually the other Nick, Chicago Nick, that does it. So
that's
not the
friggin' sweet.
Yep. So before I get into my prediction, I just wanted to